the Triple C comeback tour, the potential C4 opportunity, it has been derailed. It has been stalled. And there is now the potential that Aljamain, the Funkmaster Sterling, went from joke to retiring one of the greatest combat sports athletes alive. My question to you right here, man, is kind of on that main topic. Does Henry Cejudo retire? I mean, at this point, you got to really think about it, right? You came back to make history. You got stopped on that first level of that history-making endeavor. Why take more losses or put yourself in that position?
I agree with you, Derek. I feel like this was the one where if the storybook was written correctly, Henry Cejudo, he stops fighting, he keeps going, he does the coach thing, he goes and be prosperous somewhere else. But like you said, he's one of the greatest combat sport athletes and one of the best competitors around. So fighting that competitive itch is why I might see Cejudo staying around in the sport a little longer.
If he does stay around, he clearly made it. I mean, he made it known. He says 125 is not an option. It has to be 135 or 145. Listen, man, I don't want to make too much of it, but I did make this the point. I said 3-year layoff. There is a difference between an active fighter going through regular championship camps and then a dude who is at the top of the game, but I mean, failed to evolve just a touch, right, into this difference between 2019 and 2023. So the question really becomes, yeah, he could probably most definitely hang around with these top 5 guys, but you still are putting yourself in a position to continuously tarnish that outstanding resume that you have. Is it worth it? I guess that's my main question.
Is it worth it to tarnish the? Yeah, I think so, Derek. To tarnish the legacy that is Triple C. Not many people give him the story career, the highlight reels. You know, there's not a lot of people clamoring for a Triple C fight. A lot of people do like the cringe. A lot of people hate the cringe. So it is going to put butts in seats. But as far as legacy, I don't really think he has much more to really risk. You know what I'm saying? Like nobody's taking away the gold medals, nobody's taking away the belts. Everybody will forget for a while who you were after some point. But I think if Triple C stays fighting, he at least has a little bit to contend with. I want to go back to what you're saying about staying with the top 5s. I think he could meander in that area. He can definitely wade those waters. But as far as taking down the elites, the top of the divisions in the 45s and the 35s, I don't really see it, man. And from this fight in particular, I was expecting to go in and just absolutely maul Aljamain Sterling. And it was a great fight. It was a very close fight. And going up to weights, I don't see it working out anywhere better than it did. Probably even worse. Do you think he can actually survive in those deep waters with those 35, 45ers?
It really is tough because he was having a hard time dealing with the frame and the size of Aljamain Sterling. And Sterling is a big bantamweight, but he's not a big featherweight. And you get against some of those featherweights, and then it's like, this is a different ball game here. So I do think that part of the reason Henry Cejudo didn't look the same way that he did against Dom Cruz was because of how weird and lanky and long Aljamain Sterling was, man. But then you saw over time he adjusted over the course of the fight, and he was able to make some reads. Here's the big point. Ultimately, the answer is no. I don't think that he can really hang with these bigger guys. But let's talk about the other end of the spectrum. Aljamain Sterling, when they asked Henry Cejudo, hey, he beat you, where does he stand in the bantamweight division in terms of legacy? Is he number 1? And Henry Cejudo basically said, well, he beat the Triple C. You got to put him at number 1. We were kind of mocking a little bit in the last show saying, greatest bantamweight alive. I don't know about that. And even in terms of history, it's tough to put Aljo there right now. What else does he have to do for you and for me to really solidify him as that bantamweight great?
Ooh, if Aljo can go on a 3 to 5 run spree where he's just defending, and actually finishing these fighters, then that would kind of get me to start really talking about Aljo. If Aljo is able to develop his game from a more so grappling oriented where he needs to get things to the ground, but he can develop into somebody who's comfortable on the feet, willing to fight you at your own game, but still knows he's smart enough to stick to the game plan, then we can start talking about GOAT. And at least in my thing, man, I don't know about you, Derek. Fights between teammates are never fun, but you gotta get the Rob fight, man. Like there's always going to be that lingering thing of like, oh well, you never wanted to fight your boy because he'd smash you. Like I don't know. What do you think? Does he need to fight Marab? And then what else is another criteria to make him the GOAT in conversation?
I think if you want to win over the casuals, right, and you want to win over just kind of like the normal person who tunes in and says, oh, yeah, that Aljamain Sterling guy, he's pretty good, right? Like if you want to win over those people, Yeah, you have to probably, I would say you have to beat O'Malley, you have to beat Marab, and then you have to move up to featherweight. And if you can secure a belt there, then you retire into grace right there. Because if he said he needs to go on a 3 to 5 fight run or whatever the case may be, well, this is his third title defense, right? The first one against Jan, split decision. Then he finishes TJ, hurt shoulder, and then he gets another split decision. I see what you're saying. It doesn't feel devastating. It doesn't, you know what I mean? It doesn't feel like, oh, this guy is just manhandling everybody. But a title defense is a title defense nonetheless, man. Let's real quick, excuse me, talk about some of these X's and O's on how the fight ultimately went down. Bro, Aljamain Sterling took down Henry Cejudo 4 times. 4 times. So Henry Cejudo was like, oh, I've never been taken down. He did have a 96% takedown defense going into this. But the point is, outstruck him, took him down, used his length to his advantage, and was able to shut down a lot of the danger that comes with a Henry Cejudo, man. I mean, did you ever really see yourself in a position, because I want to talk the controversy just here in 1 second, but did you see yourself in a position where you're like, Henry Cejudo can actually get this thing done at any point in the fight?
No, I never felt that Henry Cejudo was in the driver's seat to actually do a lot of damage to put things down. And also to that same point, Derek, as much as Aljo was getting the takedowns and was having the control, I also didn't really see many points in which Henry Cejudo was like, oh, he's in trouble now. Aljo can finish this fight too.
Yeah.
So it goes back to my point of we need to see a little bit more devastation out of the Aljo camp. But to the controversy that was, there was nothing, not even a glimmer of that coming from the Cejudo camp. So that's what I think, man. I that's where I say the right guy won this fight.
And if you take a look at the MMA decisions, like I said, a lot of people, they're kind of like crying robbery. They're saying Henry Cejudo should have won. Look at the verdict. And, I'm a big fan of verdict. I'm a big fan of global scoring and all of that good stuff. But when you look at the media scores, the thing that I want you to pay attention to is what's the most common ruling. It's 48-47. This was a close fight. This was by no means a landslide in either direction. But you got two people that are down here with the Cejudo dub. Most people have it in favor of Sterling. I'm a little surprised at this one, 49-46 for Sterling, because Henry Cejudo did manage to make some of these rounds really, really close. But at the end of the day, and still, Triple C fails to become C4. I'm going to take a bold bet, and I'm going to say we don't see Triple C again in the octagon. I think it's wise to hang it up. And I do think that we will now legitimately have that conversation of like who was the better guy. Was it Cejudo or was it DJ Mighty Mouse? I think it's Mighty Mouse, man. He's over. He just defended his belt again with the trilogy and Rice. But